So let's start with the album. You released, as I said, "If the Stars Were Mine" last month, and it has everything from Sondheim to Whitney Houston, and I know it was part of your stage show that now is living in this format. So tell me a little bit about the kind of journey to do that.
Yeah, making an album is one of those things. It's like a dream thing I always wanted to do, and I started touring this show that I've been performing for a couple of years, which is sort of about growing up gay and Mormon and having a son and all sorts of things. But it's sort of like a stand-up comedy show where I sing some songs. And I had a lot of kind of reimagined versions of songs in there, and people started asking me where they could hear them, and I was like, I don't know, they just exist. Why don't you come and see me? But then I decided, as I've been growing older and when I became a father, I started thinking a lot more about the things we leave behind, kind of, and and so I decided partially that it was the thought of like my son having this album and maybe playing it for his kids one day that I was like, yes, I should do that. So it is a broad mix of music. It's sort of like being inside my head. And I think all albums are this way, but it's really meant to be listened to kind of start to finish, and you kind of get a sense of a story when you listen to it that way. And also the liner notes are very important to kind of give context to the things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Want people to buy the album so they can get the liner notes if they don't know what.
Yes. Yeah. Please buy the album. Please. Uh,
Um, well, I mean, but tell me about that selection. I mean, as you said, the songs were part of this show, so they were telling part of the story. But people might not understand why you have something from If Then in it. So,
mhm.
how did you select, or did you work with somebody and you guys were like, "This is how we want to interpret this"? Or
Yeah, I think, all of the songs are a little bit like journal entries. They are like, they all do mean something specifically to me. I think if you listen to them completely out of context, you still get a strong sense of what they mean, for me. But there are some that I knew I had. I love the song, but I wanted to say something different about it, like Whitney Houston's "I Want to Dance with Somebody." How dare I cover a Whitney Houston song? But you know, but to me, I remember being a little gay Mormon kid in Utah and thinking and listening to that song and sort of it feeling a little bit sad to me almost because I remember thinking like I might not ever have that. That might not ever be something that happens for me. I might not ever dance with somebody. And so when I first started singing that song, I took it to my accompanist and I was like, "Hey, can we do this song, but can we make it a little sad? And how can we do that?" And I worked with both Brian Perry and Rodney Bush, are my two music directors on the album, on kind of finding new ways to say those words and sing those things.
so one of the things I'm always curious about is our pop cultural touchstones and things that influenced us. If you had any pop culture role models, which many of us gay and queer kids didn't when we were growing up, and then now that you are basically can become one of those, and we'll talk more about that in your roles that you played. But did you have any, like you just mentioned Whitney Houston, but like were there
Mm.
other music or TV shows or anything?
You know who was my hero when I was a kid? Well, Indiana Jones.
Oh,
I wanted to be Indiana Jones when I was a little kid. He was like a do-gooder and he loved history and books and he was a professor and hot, which didn't hurt. But no, I loved Indiana Jones when I was a kid. But also, my brother and I have a gay brother who's just older than me, and we both loved musicals. My mom started us on like the old musicals when we were like Shirley Temple and Judy Garland when we were young, and we loved Judy Garland. And we used to. My mom said my brother and I's bedroom was upstairs, and she said it was like living below a cabaret because we were always like blasting Judy Garland upstairs or Edith Piaf. We also loved Edith Piaf, and
yeah.
so we, so those were some of like my first and favorite influences. And as far as me and visibility goes, I think that I did have like I think I had my sister's best friend was this man Michael Mitchell, who's now one of my good friends still, but she was 16 years older than me, and her best friend was gay. And I sort of always looked up to him. Like when I found out he was gay, which wasn't until much later in life, I was always kind of looking up to him. And I remember what that was like. And for me to be, like now that social media exists, to try to be public about my about what it's like to be a gay dad and be gay as an adult, is very important to me.
Absolutely. I mean, so one of the things, and this isn't a spoiler, but you played John Adams in Gilded Age. You're
Mhm.
in a gay relationship with another male character. It's secret, and then just as we think that you're gonna like have this happiness, your character is like tragically killed in an almost comical way. So tell me what that was like one playing that role and being able to do a historical, I mean, a fictional character, but early late 19th, early 20th century type character and being gay, but then being killed.
Mhm. All those things. No, it was when I got cast in Gilded Age, I was very excited to have the chance to show a character in that time period, and especially as I was reading the first few episodes, a character who wanted to live um, an authentic life and whatever that meant for him. And when you look at the histories of gay New York, gay Brooklyn, they're fascinating and very even at this time period, it's in some ways more flourishing than they were in the 1930s and things when prohibition came along and suddenly the word like gay and queer, like those things became more, yeah, more illegal. Then those things started dying out, but there was a little bit more of a vibrant scene in the late 1800s. And so I loved that. I loved that being a part of the show. It was always sort of the plan that my character was going to die because he had to for the plot and like to move on things. So that was sort of a bummer, but like it's it's what the story was always going to be. Um and so I mean, as far as the dying goes, it was funny. I was out of the country when it aired, and we filmed it a long time ago. And I went to sleep I was in Berlin, and I woke up the next morning to all of these text messages from people, and I was like, "Oh my god, what happened? There's been an emergency in New York." It was me. I died. And I had totally forgotten that that's when it was going to air.
So tell us about that though. You have embodied these different versions of love on stage. I mean, you played Andy, which was like the gender swap version of Company with Katrina, which I saw several times. I've seen many versions of Company. It's like it's just really great, and many gay men especially relate to the music, to the sentiment, and then of course there were people who are purists who were upset about all of this and the changes. What
Mhm.
was it like, in these different versions of love that you've done, um, and how it's different, I guess, from your personal life versus like what you're playing on stage or in a show.
Yeah. The I was such a fan of that show. I wanted to go and see it in London before it came to New York because I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so amazing." Um, and I think that when revivals are done, my favorite kind of revivals are the ones that say something else about the material. Um, I mean, I also love like a good just revival, straight up revival of a show too. But because I'm a musical theater nerd. But I do like I think John Doyle just wrote a really amazing book about directing that is talks somewhat about this, but just the true sense of like taking a story that we know and making us see it in a different way.
Yeah.
That's theater. That's exciting. And I think that for Company, it's a show that didn't necessarily age well as like it- there are things about Bobby being a man that now are kind of uncomfortable.
They're
And
toxic.
yeah, it's like he's definitely like it's hard to make him a likable character as a man these days. And I think that so one way to really make the story new again was to do this. And I think that I thought it was fascinating. And I rather would be in a polarizing thing that some people hate you know, than like at least it's interesting. I don't know. And and it was thrilling to get to play Andy. That kind of part isn't written for men a lot. Like there
Mm,
aren't a lot of those like really kind of himbo. um, parts, and it was so fun to play it because it really could be anything. It was like doing the show for the first time. It was like, what is this? What does it mean as a man saying these things to a woman? Is so different. It's so different
Right.
than the other way around. Than what we see as sort of a trope. Um, so that was very, very fun. And I've gotten to play all sorts of loving relationships on stage, and I think that that's what love is. It's a broad spectrum of things, and I think that that's one of the beautiful things about storytelling is we're experiencing someone else's version of what love is and how it reflects our own or it doesn't reflect our own.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I Before I move on, I have to ask you then, because you talk about revivals. Have you seen Jellicle Ball yet?
Yes. Loved it. I haven't seen it on Broadway actually. I saw it off Broadway. I can't wait to go back and see it, but I've just seen it.
They need
Um,
to have you as one of the judges one night.
I know maybe I need to talk to somebody.
Yeah, I was dubious about it. I mean, when I first heard years ago, before the pack even opened, that they were doing it as their first show, I was like, "Really?" And then everybody I know who saw it downtown, I ended up missing it when it was off Broadway downtown. And then I got to see it, and it was like the most queer joy I've ever experienced in one room. It was
Yeah,
great.
it's fun. I'm not a Cats person. I don't
No,
love the musical Cats, and this was like the way that I was gonna love Cats, and
yes.
so it's like I had a blast.
As
Hundred
one one
Shields
Oh, I got chills when he came out on stage. It was amazing.
is amazing. It's amazing.
Um, and then also I saw Luke Evans and Rocky Horror. You have to go see that as well.
I know I have to go. I have to go.
It's an epiphany. Like, I was like, "What the hell? I did not expect this." So,
Yeah.
although I guess as an actor, it'll make you jealous because you're like, "Why am I not doing this role?" But
I don't know. I think not that I'm totally over that, but I think that I felt that a lot in my 20s because I was a little more hungry to prove something maybe. I think now I'm thrilled at the differences that are, like that we are and that people are. And I don't see as many performances that I'm like, I should have done that. I more often think like, oh my God, that person's amazing.
right.
Excuse me.
Um, I see that one of the people here, David Clark, has said he loves seeing all of your posts about being a gay dad.
Oh,
And
thank
as
you.
people who had joined later didn't know, today is your day. Even though it's Mother's Day, it's Papa's Day.
Papa's Day.
Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about, I don't know, like this journey. I mean, as you said, a gay dad. You didn't expect that to ever happen when you were younger,
Yeah.
and
People,
meeting Eric and everything.
yeah. People always ask me, like, do you think, did you always know you wanted to be a dad? Like, it's an impossible question to answer. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Like, I think that, I think that sometimes people want you to have felt some sort of like epiphany that is like, no, I knew, like, no, I don't know. I didn't know. I did want to, like I did really want to have a child. But also as a little gay Mormon kid in Utah, I didn't know it was possible because I know that lots of other people before me, lots of gay parents, there were lots of gay parents in the 80s and before, and, but I didn't see any of them, not from where I grew up. And so I didn't really know it was possible or didn't know what it looked like, until later in life. And when we started down the parenthood road, it was sort of like, okay, well, you have to really want it because surrogacy doesn't just happen. And we had a lot of kind of um, things that slowed up our process. And at any point, we could have been like, okay, do we want to not do this? And we always moved forward and said we wanted to do it. And, you know, it's my favorite thing. I love it so much. I love being a dad so much. It's, I, there's a part of me that in another life has like 10 kids because I just love it. Um,
That's
but
very
one,
Mormon-side of
I know it's very more to me,
you.
but I think, it is like, I, um, I do love it. I do love it. And also, in an industry where there's so much up and down and, Um, Amy Poehler says this great thing in her memoir that it is if you chase your career ends up treating you like a bad boyfriend.
Hmm.
But if you chase your life, your career will chase you. And I do think there is some truth to that. I had an acting teacher when I was very young who was like, when I was not very young, I was in college, after college, but he was like, okay, you've studied acting now. You need to go and do other things. You need to
Mm.
go fall in love and have your heart broken and do, because if you don't, you're not going to have anything. Yeah. Like you won't have anything to act about. You won't have any real experience to draw from if you don't know what it's like to have done it. Because it is very easy just to be like, all I want is this and I'm going to do it all the time. And this is all and so that having a child is one of those things that it's like, it's taught me so much. It's given me so much perspective about life.
Well, and to even get to that point, I think one of the things I'm very curious about is often we have certain blueprints that we get received or told or taught to us, and you obviously had those, and then you have to unlearn certain things. And to find love as a gay man has to be an intentional thing in some ways because you have to make a lot of decisions. To get married until very recently was so
Mhm.
difficult. It's not like you could just run off and do it like straight people could.
Yeah.
But to have a kid, as you said, is the same thing. You have to. It's very, very intentional, and it has to be difficult in your relationship.
Mhm.
Like it has to be moments where you're like, "Is this ruining our friendship, our romantic life, all these things?"
Yeah. All of it. I mean, yeah, I mean, like it is, there are endlessly difficult things about it, as well as like anything really worth it. It's like, it's got to be hard.
Yeah,
But also the best.
the struggle is part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. It,
Well, so then I do want to then just quickly, well, not quickly, but I want to ask you the big one, which is, on our questionnaire, I always ask people, how do they define love? Is it that strong feeling that hits you when you first meet somebody, or is this thing that you work at over a long period of time, or how do you think about it? Because obviously you've had to think about it.
yeah. Um, I think that for me, love is love is attention. It's about seeing someone for who they are when they're not, being charming or impressive, which is all they are to you at first, to try to make you love them, or you try to make them love you. But then you get to a point where you're annoying and obnoxious to each other, and you still move towards that person.
Yeah.
Um, it is, I think that there's a reason why we feel so cosmic about it and feel like it's magical, because there is also just something chemical about it that is like, if you have that chemistry with a person, then there's the potential that you will fall in love with them.
Hmm.
And sometimes it seems like it can be the perfect person on paper, but you just don't love them. And I feel that way about friendships too. And I feel that way on stage with people I work with on stage too, that I'm like, there are times when I work with somebody in a scene and it's really special. And there's just something kind of magical that happens that is like, we're not even in love, but that we can make the audience feel as though we are in love because we have a something between us. And I think that's beautiful, and I love seeing it. When you see people on stage that you're like, oh, those two people are feeling something. And I am also an actor that is not like methody, and is like, I don't fall in love with my co-stars often, like, anything like that. But I do think there is something real inside you that we can see as an audience, and it's something to do with vulnerability, and how we will allow ourselves to be in front of other people, which kind of circles back to what I'm saying about like being able to see your faults or see your underbelly and like you anyway. Um,
What do you think about the idea of unconditional love? And I assume a parental love maybe factors into that, but I recently was being interviewed with my husband, and it turns out he believed in it, and I was more cynical and was like, "There's no such thing as unconditional love." And I was like, "What?" But I think because he's not the one people would, and I realized what he meant was that once he commits, he's not going to, like, it's unwavering, his commitment and his like loyalty was
yeah,
it was to that. I think he obviously gets annoyed with me. It's not like he likes me all the time.
yeah, yeah. So like and love is definitely a different thing. Yeah, I mean, like it's. I think unconditional. Oh, it's such a good question too. There is. Sorry, I'm getting over a little sickness. I um. I think here's what I think about unconditional love. Okay, parental love, separate thing. I absolutely feel unconditional love towards my child, for better or worse. Otherwise, you will not wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to feed them. Like you have to love them, uh, because it's hard. Um, but I do think there is a kind of love for people that even if you don't end up together, will never go away. Like I feel that way about some of like my first boyfriends and people that I loved years and years ago. There's still a part of me that loves them,
Mhm.
you know, even if for periods I really didn't like them. But there's a part of me that's like, oh, you were with me, you had my heart in a particular time in my life, and that part of me will always love you, you know? And
Even if it's for what they taught you, right?
yeah, 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 for which like could have been hard. Um, but it's not like unconditional love. I'm with you a little bit like, no, people can do things that
Right,
violates your love. And
right.
you can not love them anymore in that way, in like a more traditional love way, you know?
But I like what you said earlier about friends as well, or former, partners or lovers, because I have been exploring this idea of the elasticity of queer love and the idea that we can be friends with people who maybe we once were intensely romantically involved with.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But so, and that also gets into strangers, right? We often have these intense moments with strangers. Sometimes they're people we're acting with. Hopefully, they're not complete strangers.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's people we meet on the street. And I'm curious if you've thought about that. And we're going to talk about City of Strangers because I think that's an interesting kind of like stranger kindness, and there's a
Yeah.
sort of something embedded there that I want to know more about. But before we move into it, just what do you think about this elasticity of queer relationships or queer friendships?
That's very interesting. And I think that in queer relationships more than in straight relationships, because there's a weird thing about men and women being friends, I think that it's harder to imagine ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend being friends.
Right.
I think honestly, I hate to call myself out of my own prejudice, but I think I would be like, "Are you friends?" Like I think I would feel a little weird about it. Maybe um I hate that that's maybe true about myself, but with gay queer people, we're all friends with each other. And I like that it is often that I meet people and I'm like, "Oh, how do you two know each other?" And it's like, "Oh, we were boyfriends 10 years ago, but now we're friends." Like that happens a lot. And I think that it's maybe one of the wonderful things about queer love is that
Yeah.
there is that. I love that term, elasticity.
Mhm.
That like that's great. And like there are definitely other people I'm not friends with,
Yeah.
but I do think that more often in queer relationships than straight one that there's a possibility at least there,
Mhm.
maybe.
Well, tell us a little bit about what started City of Strangers, because what I know is that you got, like, a random gift and it changed your life. Is that
Yeah.
true?
Yes. So basically, when I was in college, I was going to BYU, the Mormon school, and I got kicked out for being gay. They found out I was gay. It was horrible, and I got kicked out of school. And so I went to New York, and I on a visit. I just went to go visit and see some Broadway shows. And I was seeing shows standing room only because I had no money. And the guy walked up to me afterwards and said, after a show that I saw, and he was like, "Hey, I saw you up in the standing room. Are you from out of town?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, here's $200. You should go buy yourself a ticket to Sweeney Todd tomorrow. It'll change your life."
Which one was this?
This was the John Doyle Sweeney Todd, the one with Patti LuPone and Michael
I saw
Cerveris.
that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. And at first I was like, what do you want? Because it was like I was just this Mormon kid from Utah. I was taught that New York was where all the bad people were. I was not expecting kindness in this
Right.
place. But really he didn't want anything. He just wanted to be nice. He just wanted to do it. He and his girlfriend. I think they both like pooled their money and like handed it to me. Cash. And
At least you knew it wasn't a guy trying to pick you up.
yeah, like yeah, exactly. At least he was with his girlfriend. I was with my boyfriend at the time. And it did, like, it was a big life-changing moment for me, and in feeling like there was kindness in New York. I did go buy myself a ticket to Sweeney Todd, and it really did inspire me. Speaking of like revivals that are weird and polarizing, like I fell in love with that. I was like, that's the kind of theater I want to make, and they're not doing it. Yeah, like they're not doing that in Utah where I was from. Like I wanted to be where the exciting theater was. Um,
They also don't
so
have Pat Tone paying the tuba, so
no, the tuba and pouring buckets of blood around and stuff. So then I had taken when he gave me the money, the only thing I did was I asked if I could take a picture with him. And so we
mm.
took a picture together and cut to almost 15, 17 years later, I was in company on Broadway and I posted something about that story and I posted the photo of me and the guy. And Doug Sills, who was on the Gilded Age with me, called me because he knows that guy.
Oh, wow.
And so he reconnected us after all those years. And it sparked this kind of movement where I started buying tickets for people to shows, people who couldn't afford it after the pandemic. And then it's turned into a nonprofit now. We've given away over 3,500 tickets to Broadway shows. And we mostly partner with community organizations now who find for people. We do still do like just random giveaways on Instagram. If you follow us at City of Strangers NYC, we do just like giveaway tickets to people sometimes. Um, but then we also partner with these organizations to find people who would love to be in the theater to come see a show, but have never had the opportunity. And um, it's great. It's been, like, it's just me. I'm just like, nobody makes any money, like nobody gets paid doing it. We just like, I have like volunteers who will come and help me pass out the tickets sometimes, but that's about it. And they
That's
just
great.
trade it. Yeah. Yeah.
I wanna invite anybody who has joined us who wants to ask a question of Clay about his album, about any of the roles, about anything we've talked about to do that, but as we're waiting to see if anybody has any questions, talk about that though. That is a form of platonic love. Like that is a sort of charity of giving back. But am I being forced when I say that? Like, what do you think?
I know. No, 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 it's true. And I have to say, like, when you talk about love and like friendship, love and stuff, me and Mark, the guy who gave me the money, are now really good friends. Be- and like when we were reconnected, it was a really emotional moment. Just the serendipity of it all. Like we both cried. I still cry about it sometimes. Like it was just a really beautiful thing to be reconnected with this person because at like a random act of kindness, you're not
Yeah.
supposed to ever know the ending of the other person's story. And so just the kind of magic of that happening was really beautiful and emotional and sort of bonded us in this way that like when I see him now, it's like we went to high school together or something. Like it's like we went through something together and we just know we're supposed to be friends. And so when we hang out, we love each other. Yeah, it is totally like, you know, he like in many ways is still a stranger to me, but I feel this deep, deep affection for him because of this thing that happened that we went through together, which just happened. Like, um, so yeah, that's
So, two last questions.
yeah.
One is Were you ever given any good or bad advice about dating or relationships that were like, I know when I was a kid, somebody told me like, never trust gay guys. They're always going to try to break you up or something. Like if they
Uh,
know you have a boyfriend, that was
yeah,
good, bad advice.
yeah, yeah, that is good bad advice. They're not wrong, but they're wrong. Yeah. um, I, my the first boyfriend I brought home was this guy when I was a freshman in college, and I introduced him to my sister. My sister, who was again, like I said, 16 years older than me, and so she was like a second mom in some ways. And after it was such a big deal to like have my first boyfriend meet my family, and she was like, Clay, after he'd left, was like, I don't care if you're gay, I just want you to be happy, but not him. I was like, not that one. You need to aim higher.
How did that feel? Did you get angry or?
I did get angry at the time. I was like, but I love him, But it actually did. I think that I thought of the chances of meeting anybody was so great that it was just kind of like, yeah, the first one. And I do think there was something to her saying that I was like, oh yeah, like still in any straight relationship, you don't just go with the first thing that comes along, and you should
Right.
find somebody that you actually, because to me, I think that the miracle that I found a boyfriend at all in a small rural town in Utah was like, you know,
Well, this
and
I assume is pre-internet or was it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, well, no, there was internet. Like there
Yeah.
was like gay.com chat rooms, but that was it.
Right, but it's true. Back then, there was like, I don't know if I'm gonna ever meet another gay guy. I need to take this chance and make it
Yeah,
work. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I do think there was something to that. Gosh, other gay like relationship advice I got.
Well, how about any that you would give to people? I mean, you're now a pro at this. You're the what do they call you? The gay internet daddy. What is? Do you have like a somebody? There's like something that they call you online.
Oh, really?
Maybe
I
you're
don't
just
know.
like
Internet
uh,
dad?
maybe you're just like the gay dilf actor.
Oh, I don't know. I would say I would say relationships are what you make them, and it doesn't need to look like anybody else's relationship. Um and and I think the sooner you let that go, I mean, it's like anything on Instagram, like for a gay man. A gay man is like Instagram is the worst place. It's horrible there. It's a horrible place. I participate in it, but
Do you mean
like
because of thirst traps or what?
yeah, well, and also just the unrealistic expectation that you're supposed to have a group of gay best friends who you go to Greece with every 3 weeks. You're
Uh,
like, and you're supposed to have like 18 abs and a great job and an amazing apartment, and like these things that I'm sure people see in me too. And I like, I try to show the not pretty parts of my life too. And but like that's what it's for. And I think that in relationships it can be very like as a gay man, it can be very easy to look at other gay relationships and be like, they're doing that, they're like this. And you build a whole story about who they are and what they are and how their life must be
right,
by looking at their vacation photos.
right.
It's such a weird thing. We look at strangers' vacation photos. Can you imagine 30 years ago being like, we're all going to look at strangers' vacation photos?
It used to be the butt of jokes that people would come back from vacation and do the slideshow and everyone was bored.
And
Now
now,
we're doing it constantly.
isn't it crazy? But it is. It's very easy to like get, caught up in what other people's lives must be like and fill in all the blanks for yourself on other people's lives. And I think that, you just have to be careful about that stuff. And, when I think about my son, he's allowed to have social media when he's 30, but not until that. No, it
Yeah,
feels like it
screens.
feels so scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it weird for you now, watching certain shows and being like, "Oh, wow," like Adolescence, I don't know if you saw that show, but it's like, kept thinking, if I were a parent, I would not be able to function after watching this.
I did not watch it
Yes, I
because
would say
people said, "Don't watch it." People were like, don't watch it. You'll get too upset. I was like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, as a non,
Um,
I was like, "Whoa, I don't wanna be a parent."
yeah, God. I mean, it's scary. We're luckily, I feel like we have a great group of parents that we are involved with at our school and other theater families that we're friends with and stuff. It's very strange to be the child of theater people, particularly. Like I do TV and film stuff, sure, but like I'm a theater person and like I'm doing Little Shop of Horrors right now off
Yeah,
Broadway. I start performances in a couple weeks and
tell people
it,
who you're gonna be playing.
I'm the dentist.
Yeah.
hmm And it like my son's best friends is a big theater kid and his favorite show is Little Shop of Horrors. He's seen it like 5 times. So when they found out I was going in, they were like losing their minds and so excited. And my son's like, okay, like he's kind of doesn't care. Like he doesn't think it's special in a way, like it's what I do. And that's also a great perspective thing. Um wait, but what was the question? Um,
Uh, I wanna now talk about this for a minute because I did
okay.
s and Jonathan Groff and Christian Borle were in it, and it was very funny, and so, people will be excited about your biceps and what you're gonna be doing on stage.
It's
Uh
very silly. It's very fun. Yeah.
But I am curious about that too because, I have met, actors and people who they're like, "Yeah, my son or my kid does not care what I do until I do, like, a Star Wars movie or something that they actually are engaged with." But
Yeah.
y is he gonna come see you in this?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. He's excited. He's excited. He's like seen me in concerts and things that I think he thinks are pretty cool. I
That's
did
not cool.
what'd you say?
Dads are just not cool.
Yeah, that's just not cool. Yeah. And then there are things he just can't come see me in, like Wild Party.
Right.
It was not a show for kids.
Yes.
Not a show for kids.
There are boundaries. You're not the dad who's letting him do whatever he wants. But what is it like raising a child in the city?
Oh, it's so weird. Especially when you're used to like running around in the woods. Like when I was a kid, it was like open the door, leave, we'll see you when it's dark. Um, so it's a very different childhood. And it took me a while to come to terms with the fact that even though it's a very different childhood doesn't mean it's not a great childhood. And he spends we go to all the museums and we all these, it's very cool. And the way he acts on the subway, it's so funny. He's such a New Yorker. He's
Mhm.
such a New Yorker about like people standing or sitting or having their backpacks on the train.
You can
um
always tell a New York kid. They act differently than the visitors.
yeah,
There was a question before I let you go. What was
yeah.
it like playing a really unsavory character in The Wild Part?
I think people think of me as being a very nice, like nice normal kid. Hi, that's my child. Um um People think of me as like a nice gay dad. I'm generally like a nice gay ex-Mormon gay dad. But I think that they're like I've played a lot of villains and I think that people are surprised when they see me as the villain because I don't come across that way in real life.
Mhm.
But it's some of my favorite parts to play, sometimes because I think it is a little surprising to people. And I like that. Just, um, yeah.
The
Inappropriate time for kid to enter. Yeah. I just want that.
Well, I do want you to be able to enjoy Papa's Day and thank you for spending time with us.
Of
And for
course.
people who haven't listened, If the Stars Were Mine is streaming on all the platforms. Go buy the vinyl, read the liner notes.
Yeah.
Um,
You can
and
buy it at my website. I should say you can go to claybourneelder.com. That would be my favorite place for you to buy it. And I would love for you to stream it as well. But if you really would love to support me, buy a copy because that's how I actually make any money off of the album and help pay for it.
and as you told us, this is you need to listen from beginning to end, but if there is one song that's your favorite, what would it be?
Oh, it changes like day to day, all the time. But
Okay.
I would say right
What about
now,
today?
I would say today is I love Till There Was You. There's a version of Till There Was You that I really love on that album.
All right, cool. So we will highlight that in the notes for this episode afterward.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Again, Clay, thank you for joining us. And if you are not already a subscriber to the Queer Love Project and you're hearing this on another platform, you can find us at queerloveproject.substack.com. It's a platform where we share stories and interviews and moments like this about whatever queer love means to you. It's free. All the words and everything, I'm going to keep that free. So, yeah, thank you again, Clay, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.